Good morning, and welcome to the Argyle International Airport.
Thank you, thank you.
We are, yes, happy and also sad. We are sad because we've lost some lives, and I suspect some of those who passed away on Christmas Eve might have themselves been looking forward to this day. We are sad we've lost them, and we want to extend our condolences to the families of the bereaved who died on Christmas Eve night. I also want to extend my own sympathies to those persons who are trying to recover today from the damage. And I have a very good friend. When I saw his home, I couldn't believe it myself in Spring Village. So I know and appreciate very much the hardship that some people are going through right at this minute. But we are here to continue to do what we have been doing. We have been making progress, and today marks another important milestone in this big, long, continuing project. We are here today to witness the ceremonial handing over of a completed terminal building. That is, the building itself is completed. And this component of the project is a significant part of the Argyle International Airport project. So we have, in spite of the doubting Thomases, today mark the end of a significant component of that mission on which we started in 2005 September. This process, though, of building an international airport, at least as far as we at the IADC are concerned, is a national effort. We have sought at every opportunity to involve all of the stakeholders in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in this important project. We've never taken ownership of this airport project as though IADC is the owner. We know that we are perhaps the leaders, but not necessarily the owners. And so when we started discussions about what terminal we should have, what we did, as we have been doing throughout this project, is to create a committee, a small committee we call the design committee, with important stakeholders drawn from the different agencies of the government. And we set about to travel to different countries, to airports in different countries, in the region and outside of the region, to learn from them about their own terminal buildings, what design features work and which ones didn't. We wanted to learn to avoid mistakes because we know that we are a poor country and we can't do it twice. We have to get it right the first time. And in our travels, we've learned a lot. Indeed, we visited more than 12 airports in a 6-month period. I remember once we went on a mission in Europe, and there were 5 of us, 1 lady, including our chief project engineer, Jeffrey Cato. And the trip was so tiring. We were spending 2 days only in each country. And every single person in that contingent got sick, except me, of course. In fact, Jeffrey was so badly ill, we had to take him to the hospital in Mexico to be treated. And I remember very well that Carcel, who is our director of airports, she couldn't even get out of bed one morning to attend to the other mission that we had slated that day. When we returned, we were all frazzled. Even young Aluko was also ill, but that is the nature of the task. We didn't want to spend too much time because we know we didn't have any money to pay extra hotel rooms, so we had to whisk from one country to the other. At the end of our travels, though, we were able to put together a design brief extending into 53 pages. And what is this brief? The brief tells the architectural firm what we, IADC and the country, wants in our terminal building. It is very good to have an architect to tell you what a building ought to be like, but you are going to fail in your own. You're going to fail on your own if you do not have some ideas as to what you want it to be. So we told them in a 53-page brief how we want our terminal building to be designed, what we want in our terminal building, where the rooms ought to be placed, how many floors we should have in the terminal building, and the traffic, the passenger flow through our terminal building. We also had a very important paragraph in our brief that also guided the designers, and I'm going to read it here for you. It says that our design objectives require the architect to design a functional, efficient, environmentally sustainable, safe, cost-effective passenger terminal building to provide a distinct front door experience to all visitors to the Argyle International Airport and to provide a pleasant environment for all other persons using the building. I believe that we have accomplished this today. We also told them that we wanted to have 2 terminals under one roof. And if you get a chance to tour the terminal, you will notice that at the southern end of the terminal building, we have a domestic terminal so that we are able to separate passengers who are going between St. Vincent and the Grenadines from international passengers. Because the processing of passengers is quite different for international and for domestic travel. So we didn't want to create any unnecessary burdens on people who are simply moving between St. Vincent and the islands of the Grenadines. We asked our architects also to reflect as much as possible into our terminal what is around us, our environment. So we say we need to see things like the sea waves. We need to see our seabirds. You know that our tourism advertisement captures our seabird. We ask them to reflect the marine environment. So if you see the roof is blue, that's part of that. We ask them to capture the green lush mountains. And if you go into the terminal building, you would see that our design team, which I'll talk about, has reflected as much as possible the blue and the greens of our environment. The roof, if you notice, is somewhat wavy, and that is the architect's interpretation of our bird wings as well as the breaking waves. And if you notice, just on the lapels of these, the galvanized here, or you may call them the fascia, they are white, signaling the breaking waves in the ocean. Now, I believe that CECI, which won the contract, has done a marvelous job of interpreting what we want in this terminal building. So after we've designed the brief, we went out to tender, and we had a winning firm in CECI. It is CECI Engineering Consultants of Taiwan, and they won the contract to design this terminal at a cost of $3.2 million US. That is for design and supervision of the works. We started the designs in September 2009, and we finished in March of 2010. But of course, after that is done, we have to start the process of construction now. And I am sure many of you know the protracted negotiations that we had with the OECC company, Overseas Engineering Construction Company, that eventually won the contract to build this terminal building. We were in negotiations for no less than 9 months, 9 long months in a year. Not only fighting over the price, but also fighting over some other, what we consider to be significant items. Contracting, and even the little language of contracting, is critical, because sometimes that makes a difference between whether we are charged more for some little variation or not. So we took a long time to make sure that every sentence in a document that extends beyond 300 pages was quite right. OECC did a marvelous job. We knew they promised us that they will deliver the building on time and within budget. So one of the things that we also thought about is whether we ought to stick to 26 months, which is what we prefer, or whether we allow them 28 months, which is what they argued for. And believe it or not, we spent probably about a week arguing about that too. We eventually gave in to them on some conditions that they will complete this building within 28 months And if they do not, we will imply a significant penalty for every day that the building is late. I am happy to tell you that they were contracted to deliver this building by the 23rd of December this year, and on the 20th of December, they handed over to us a substantial certificate of completion, which we receive, and we are receiving today the ceremonial handing over of this building. Our terminal that you're seeing here has 3 floors. I'm going to give you some insights into what is in the building itself. It has 3 floors, and in total 135,000 square feet of floor space. It is exactly 5 times the size of the terminal at the E.T. Joshua Airport. The domestic terminal itself has 10,000 square feet of floor space, and it is just under half the size of the entire E.T. Joshua terminal building at Dianasville. You can imagine that just for domestic travel, we have a terminal which is near half the size of what we have today.
That's between the Grenadines and St. Vincent.
Of course. And then you can imagine that what we are doing is planning for the obvious growth in air traffic that we expect to happen, not in the next 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, but certainly in the next 20 years, in the next 30 years. We are not building the airport for me or for the PM. We are building it for our children, and we want to make sure it works for them when they are of age. I want to tell you that we also have a lot of space within the terminal building, because we want the terminal and the airport to be as self-sustaining as possible. We shouldn't have to rely in the long term on government subsidies. So we have 7,500 square feet of buildable space in the terminal. And here I say buildable space, meaning that we are preparing ourselves now to send out requests for proposals to businesses that want to erect shops within the terminal building. And we have that much square footage to allocate to different businesses. Businesses of all kinds, shops, banks, food and drinks, dry goods, etc. So please keep your eyes fixed on the local newspapers and even in regional newspapers and on our website, because we are going to soon advertise for you to make proposals to us for any shop that you might want to establish within the terminal building. The terminal, though, is only part of what we are doing today. And in fact, when we have this building now available to us, we are going to start the process of retrofitting it. So we have already been in extensive discussions with several firms to put in things like the conveyor belts, the airline counters, immigration counters, customs facilities, all of the security scanners, the flight information systems, all of the furniture and equipment that you need for both passengers and for the administration. We expect that these facilities are going to be installed within the next 6 months. So between January and June, we are going to do all of that retrofitting. For the first time, I can say in the history of this project that we have the money to do it. There are other things that we are doing, of course. Our board has just approved a contract for a private firm to start building the firefighting and rescue station. That will be started in this month, late this month. We have also approved the contract to build the control tower base, which will be located on top where Carl Glasgow used to live, overlooking the late Carl Glasgow, of course, overlooking the terminal. We are in the process of sending out requests for proposal for managing the cargo terminal. We are going to construct the cargo terminal, but we want to have a private firm run it. After all, cargo handling and cargo management is private sector business. We would have liked a firm to build the building, but if nobody is coming forward to build it, we will build it and then we will lease it out. What you're seeing in front of you here is the parking lot, which will accommodate about 300 vehicles, cars and buses and so on, taxis. So we are going to do this work in the next month or so. And the main access, right, well, it is already nearly at the level So it will be a little bit above the road, about 3 feet or so at final level. And then the main access is going to be at the northern end of the terminal to go back to, where the Cause Culvert is. And that is going to be our main road. It's a 2-lane road, nicely decorated. We have a firm already with a landscaping contract to make sure that we are not just building it, but we are decorating it as well. The pavement works will commence this month. It will be late. But I'm sure when you came by here, you must have seen that there are some big plans assembled on our site. Those are 2 batching plants, one for concrete and one for asphalt. And if you notice recently, you saw some trucks carrying bags of cement from Kingstown to Korea site in Diamond. That is the first shipment of 3,000 bags, 1.5 ton bags of cement that we have bought to start the process of paving the apron. And that paving work we expect to start in January, late January, and to extend into July. So those who don't believe, I am sure none of you is here, but those who don't believe that we can complete the construction works by mid-year, I'll invite you here again in July to see the wonderful works that we have done and that we continue to do. A lot of people to thank for the efforts that we have been able to make so far. First, we have to thank God, because without faith, this thing could not have been done. And we have to always remember that God allows everything to happen. We have the support of many countries, including one of our very good partners in Taiwan, and our ambassadors here to speak on that. We want to thank CECI, the design firm, and OECC for doing such a wonderful job and keeping within budget and on time. I want to thank Sir Robertson I've seen, and I'm sure God Saunders is somewhere around, and I'm sure there are others who I probably have not yet seen. I want to thank them, because the board has been...
So Vincent, yeah.
Oh, Sir Vincent, of course, our most senior board member. And in fact, as the head of Petrocarib, we have a very incestuous relationship. We've gotten $48 million from Petrocarib simply because Sir Vincent is on our board at IADC as well. I want to thank the staff for all the work that they have done, especially Jeffrey Cato and his design team. He has an engineering team with an architect and some engineers, and they have been coordinating all of the work that has been done on this building so far. Of course, there is a construction company, but we had to coordinate the work of building this terminal as well. And I want to thank Jeffrey Cato and his team and the rest of the staff of the IADC. And to thank all Vincentians at home and abroad. Some who started out not believing, some, as the Prime Minister said, remain agnostic, and some who have been so much in support that they are raising money all over the world. I see members here who have been raising money to continue to contribute to the airport project. I want to thank them. I thank you all for attending today's handing over ceremony, and I trust you enjoy your visit to the Argyle International Airport. Thank you.
Of course, they have a track record in St. Vincent of doing this. They have built one of the largest celebrated projects so far in this country, the Rabica Bridge. And they are here with us here at this significant, more than significant structure, the terminal building here at Argyle. Put your hands together and really give a warm welcome to Mr. Chaow Ming Wang, Director of the OECC.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my distinct honor and privilege to stand before you at this moment occasion. The handover of this stage of Argyle International Airport project, meaning completing the passenger terminal and the substation buildings. It is indeed fitting that we have this ceremony to mark the substantial completing of this project, which broke ground only last August 2011. because of sheer determination of all stakeholders, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the government of the Republic of China, Taiwan, through the representation of each embassy here, IADC, the proponent and the employee, and the OECC, the main contractor. The goal to fulfill the dream of the people of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines of having world-class facility of an international airport to become a reality has been partially achieved. Now, this building are standing wide and long after constructing them in accordance with the contract requirement and strictly adhering to design made by the consultant of this project, CCI Engineering Consultant Inc. from the Republic of China, Taiwan, and resulting in good workmanship and quality. Allow me then to take this opportunity to acknowledge the very big contribution of and give thanks to IADC for their impressive management in the undertaking of this project. Also my appreciation and gratitude to my fellow work at OECC. Thank you. For the tremendous effort of material land and the say drain into physical structures, and lastly, but not least, to the supplier and the subcontract here in St. Vincent, who had been very supportive in the provision of resources within our reach. On behalf of OECC, I am surely delighted to represent the passenger terminal building where we are in and the substation facility. Thank you very much.
I ask you to welcome His Excellency Ambassador Weber Shih of the Republic of China on Taiwan.
It is indeed my great honor to be part of this auspicious occasion for the handing over of the contractual responsibility of the passenger terminal and substation buildings from OECC to CCI. Last week, on the Christmas Eve, a wave of devastating torrential rains caused loss of lives and severe damage to this lovely country. On behalf of the government and people of the Republic of China, Taiwan, I want to express my deepest condolences to families and friends of those who lost life in these horrific natural disasters. Our thought and solidarity are also with all Vincentian brothers and sisters who have been affected. Ladies and gentlemen, the Argyle International Airport is a historical flagship project initiated by Dr. the Honorable Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves. It is also a project for which Vincentians at home and abroad have been dreaming over the decades. The terminal building is an aircraft carrier that will fly high the national flag of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The project, being duly completed, is again reflecting the effectiveness of cooperation between our two countries. For this achievement, I want to commend Dr. the Honorable Prime Minister Rudolph Gonsalves for his visionary leadership and the political determination to make the mission impossible possible. I also want to recognize the joint effort of IADC, CCI, OECC, all participating subcontractors, and more importantly, the hardworking Vincentian neighbors. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been so proud to be part of this historic project from the beginning to its completion. On this occasion, please allow me to offer special recognition to my colleague, Councillor Mr. Michael Lin, for his invaluable contribution to this project. I'm convinced that the completion of the terminal building is to mark a happy ending for his outstanding services in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Today, I want to emphasize that the International Airport project is involving a wide range of sub-projects and interfaces, including the hard and soft ones. A terminal building completed ahead of other sub-projects is very essential for the integration of interfaces. The handing over of the contractual responsibility from OECC is marking a milestone for the commencement of the important integration task, which will be shouldered by the IADC. I wish IADC every success in its future endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, the completion of terminal building stands for a big step closer to the realization of the Argyle International Airport. Excellence and perfection is not the destination. It is a journey that never ends. As this country is striving for prosperity and sustainable development, I urge all my Vincentian brothers and sisters to stand ready to go extra miles and stand ready to ensure the full completion and smooth operation of this historic national project. May God bless the Argyle International Airport. May God bless you all. I thank you.
And I ask you this morning really to give him a very, very special welcome as he comes to address us and deliver the feature address. Prime Minister Dr. Hon.Ralph Gonsalves.
This is the only project in the world where the Republic of China and Taiwan and Cuba and Venezuela have come together. Cuba and Venezuela haven't spoken to Taiwan, nor Taiwan has spoken to them. But I spoke to each of them. And as you know, the workers from Taiwan, from the OECC are here, from the Chateau, Shih, Chavez contingent, because Chavez was added on Independence Day because of the importance of the contribution of President Chavez to this project. They work together. They see one another. They talk to one another. They no doubt have some things to eat and drink because their states do not have relations with one another. Taiwan on the one hand and Cuba and Venezuela on the other. And we have been able to do it. And there's a man in Havana named Fidel Castro, understood fully. And he explained it to Chavez. And the Taiwanese, it was okay with them. So they're doing this part, and they're doing another part. And we're all working towards the whole. The assistance has spanned 2 administrations in Taiwan, that of President Chen and President Ma. You may recall, in 2005, President Chen came here in October, and at that time we got an undertaking, subsequently put down in a memorandum, that we'll get a grant of $20 million US and a soft loan of $10 million US. We subsequently got a soft loan extended through the effort of President Ma, and that $10 million is yet to come, but all the documents have been signed and it should be here anytime now. That is a soft loan for 20 years, including the grace period, at just about 2% interest. You don't get it better than that. This terminal building costs just over $28 million US, close to 80 million Eastern Caribbean dollars. And the Taiwanese company OECC, they have done a good job. Yes. I must say, at first, they were a little hesitant in doing the job, because they had to mobilize other kinds of expertise to pull with them that work for us in other respects. I had to go on a visit in Taiwan, one of my many visits. I had dinner with the chairman of the company in order, A, to persuade him that they must do the job, and B, for us to get it at a price which is reasonable. Because the discussions were going on between IADC and the officials of OECC, and they had reached a stalemate, and Rudy told me that somebody above his pay grade had to break it. Well, he used pay grade there advisedly, because he makes more money than I do make. Within the next 6 months, we are going to finish the retrofitting of this building. Because what we have here, and the reason why you're not going in there today, is because we have to retrofit it. All the equipment and everything has to be put in inside there. And Rudy pointed out to you the importance, the size of this project, and its capacity. I just want to remind you that the runway itself is going to have 9,000 feet in length and 150 feet wide. And it's going to be able to accommodate jets as large as the Boeing 747-400s, which would allow for direct flights to our country from the United States, Canada, Europe, Central and South America. Where are we broadly with the project? Insofar as the earthworks are concerned, at the end of, as of today, we are 89% complete. The sea defense works at the northeastern end of the runway started on the 12th of August 2013 and will extend into the middle of this year coming. If you want to see it, when you come in from country and you pass Peruvian Vale, just before you come down into the hollow, where Vincent Beach lives on the right-hand side. You stop your vehicle a little bit above the corner. Don't stop it in the corner. You come round the corner and stand up near to the white wall, which is there, and you will see the extent of the work which is being done at that end of the runway. The drainage, the Chateau Shih Chavez contingent also started work on the embankment into Stubbs Bay on the southern end of the runway. You pass there, you notice there's a lot of filling. And what's going to happen there? The reason for that, I've been advised, we'll put lights, approach lights on them. My constituent Everett Best, who is a pilot, knows that better than I do know. That if you put them there, it would alert the planes when they're coming in that there is the runway right here, rather than taking up the first portion of the runway with the lights themselves. So you have some even more feet to utilize, more length for the aircraft to utilize when it's landing. And the savings for those of us who love to go to the sea is that there will be like a nice, there'll be a breakwater. So you'll have like a pool which is there where you can go and swim very, very comfortably without any worry at all from the waves on the Atlantic. So that is something additional which is being dealt with. The drainage system, we are at work on those. I don't have to go through the details and to assure you that all of these aspects of the project being dealt with by professional groups. The pavement works will begin in earnest in the new year, though in September pavement works began with the laying of the stony base material on the runway. With both the asphalt and the concrete works, a lot of it to be done, and you have to have the asphalt works cured properly. It has to be done in a particular manner. And Rudy has indicated to me, and I told him that's fine, that in order to make sure that we complete the paving, both for the asphalt and the concrete, and remember he said that we have all the equipment already, we brought those in, that we want to do shifts. We want to do at least another shift per day. So we will double up with the work so that we can complete it within the requisite time. Because I am determined for us to complete this and to open this airport before the end of next year. So that even where we have to double up with the shifts. Rudolph Matthias is working out with our Cuban comrades certain arrangements, and to that end too we are going to need to hire more Vincentians naturally to help us with this process of a second shift. We have at the moment about 384 workers on this project, and we will see numbers go up with the additional ones which are going to work on the shift. I want to say to you again that we have the resources earmarked for all of this. Don't want to carry you through those resources today. The quality control work is being done because a project of this kind, not only do we have to work very closely with the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, and where you hear all the old talk, look, we are working with the authorities, the regulatory authorities, And when people say, well, you're working with the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, you're not working with the Federal Aviation Authority. Well, the authority which we have to work with is the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, which is working with the FAA. And we all follow the same guidelines, the ICAO guidelines, the International Civil Aviation Organization guidelines. We have a lot of people talk about things they don't know. And they sound like they're impressive. But they just don't know what they're talking about. We're working on the airfield lighting. The airfield lighting, which costs about nearly $1 million US, was funded by the CARICOM Development Fund. We have those lights and they are in storage. We're just waiting until we have everything organized to have them installed. The design work for the airfield lighting substation has also been completed, and minor works relating to the laying of the cable ducting system along the airfield for the installation of the airfield lighting system has already been done. So when people say, well, they're not even putting light yet, they don't ask anybody anything. And it should be, the installation of the lighting equipment should be completed after the first quarter of this year coming. Because you can do that while you're doing the pavement works. The issue of wind studies, well, I just want to say to you that the data show that the average monthly crosswind component is relatively low, and on average less than 10 knots. And as I had indicated at the very beginning in August 2005 when I made my speech laying out what we're going to do for the airport, if we need if there's a crosswind for the small planes in excess of what is prescribed in the regulations, one of the easiest things to do here is to build a crosswind runway, which is less than half of 1% than the cost of the project. I've said from the beginning, it's not a problem. And if it is a problem, there's a solution. But we have so many persons who worship at the altar of problems, and don't see any solution. We have a land use plan, and we're in touch with physical planning. And by the way, the physical planning department is not asked to give the IADC an easy time. They must work like professionals in relation to IADC, what is good for the project and good for the development of the country. And anytime I hear of any difference of opinion between them, and one side or the other wants to drag me into it, I said, this is not a policy issue, it's a technical issue. You all sort that out. The policy issue is that IADC must follow the law. That is the policy issue. It's the only policy issue which is here. Now, let me talk a little about the landside facilities. In addition to the terminal building, well, we have that and the electrical substation, access roads and parking, control tower, aircraft rescue and fighting equipment, firefighting facilities, and the cargo terminal building. Well, we have spoken about the terminal building and the electrical substation. Control tower and aircraft rescue and firefighting buildings. In January this month coming, IADC will enter into contracts with 2 private firms that have won bids to construct these 2 buildings, the control tower and the aircraft rescue and firefighting buildings. The contractual periods for these 2 buildings, only 6 months. And they'll be done simultaneously. If, as happens from time to time, if weather comes along and so on, 6 months goes into 7 months or into 8 months, the year has 12 months. People tend to forget that. The control tower will be relocated, as was said, on the ridge at the residence of the late Carl Glasgow. IADC has already entered into a contract worth $5.3 million with Aeronov Group of Canada for the supply and installation of the air traffic control cabin, the control tower communication, and all the airfield navigational aids. Aeronav has already commenced work on this aspect of the project, and they will complete their contract by August 2014. That money, $5.3 million is one of the loans which we have taken from the Bank of Nova Scotia. Now what we have done is that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Rudy, because I'd indicated to you to take some of the other money which I'd got some other ways, to pay down some monies so that when all those monies come back it can be replenished. Is that what you did? All right. So that we make sure that the show goes on the road. The aircraft, well, incidentally, that loan from Scotiabank, what happened when I reported to Parliament about it, and they said that I don't, but I report everything to Parliament, but they don't listen. They don't listen. We could have done when we signed the agreement with Scotiabank, we could have done it LIBOR plus 2%. But when we saw LIBOR is the London Interbank offered rate, LIBOR at that time, the 6 months LIBOR, was about half of 1%. But as we watched it, it started to climb. So what we did, we took the option inside of the contract which we had signed to have a fixed rate interest, which is just under 4%, 3.75. Yes. The aircraft rescue and fighting building will be located obliquely opposite the passenger terminal building on the eastern side of the runway. IADC has already made a 15% deposit payment on 3 firefighting trucks and supporting equipment to allow these items to be delivered to IADC by September 2014, the latest. Now you will notice that while this is happening, for those who are listening, I went to Parliament and got approval for more firefighting officers. So those would be appointed early this year, because we have to begin their training to use the equipment. You notice how you have to do things in tandem with one another and plan it as you go along. Incidentally, these fire trucks and the equipment cost $2.6 million. They're not cheap. The cargo terminal, as Rudy pointed out, we would have preferred a private sector entity to finance and construct this. But different people have showed interest, but they were taking too long. So we just had to bite the bullet and we ourselves build it, and we would lease it out for people to operate the cargo terminal. The designs of the building are being revised, and the process of selecting a management firm has commenced. We expect that the contract for the construction would be awarded by March 2014, and the construction work will be completed before the end of the third quarter in 2014. The similar situation is happening with fixed base operations and hangars. Then we are doing the terminal building access roads, the Argyle Gardens access roads, the Raraku Mount Pleasant access roads, the landscaping, the environmental management. All of those things are in place. The relocation of the petroglyphs. We have provided to the National Trust monies to do this. It's about almost $500,000. The Egyptians came and they had to come back because we have to move the petroglyphs. The problem is this, you know, the difficulties in Egypt created some challenges for us. Not only am I on Rudy's case with this, I've talking to Louise Mitchell, who is heading the National Trust, and it looks as though we are on target. The petroglyphs will be relocated to a 3-acre parcel of land at Escape in Argyle. Some blasting activities still remain to be done, and of course we continue the dust management program as we do the blasting. Now in January, IADC told me that they needed $80 million US more, in addition to what has been spent already, but within the budget, the revised budget. Because we started with one figure, then we had to get about 40 acres of land more, then the terminal building cost a little more than we thought it would have cost, and the natural increase in prices made the numbers go up. We expect that the expenditure will be below the 265 million US dollar mark. But you're going to have value here in excess of that because the amount of in-kind contribution that we have received on this project, particularly from the Cubans and Venezuelans, but also from other entities. And I went to Parliament and with a supplementary appropriation bill, with a supplementary estimate earlier this year, and you remember the ruckus that caused. Some people said that they want the airport, but they vote no for me to get the money. Well, you can't want the airport on the one hand and expect me to build it with bottle stopper. I said I was going to get the money through land sales in Canawan, $20 million US, through $10.68 million from Scotiabank, and that loan is being guaranteed by the Export Development Agency of Canada. One of them, and the other one is, two of them are 5 point something, one by the Export-Import Bank from the USA. The reason why USA is guaranteeing one is because the firefighting equipment, we're buying it from a US company. And the reason why the Canadian Export Agency is guaranteeing the other loan is because we're having the facilities made for the control tower and everything by Aeronov out of Canada. And that is how we were able to get low interest rates for those. Then we have $3.3 million US from the CARICOM Development Fund, $40 million US from ALBA, and we have received 20 out of that already, And the rest supposed to come because I sent Camilo down to Caracas when I went to Europe, when I went to see the Holy Father. But we are waiting on, I just asked Rudy about it, the money on which they have given us, which we have spent. We have to send naturally all the bills, so it's a big thick document. So as soon as they get that, they will release us the rest of the money, which is the normal process. And then the money from the Export-Import Bank of Taiwan, $10 million US. Now, big question. You're building the airport, Ralph. You're mobilizing everything. What about the planes? Well, without going through in detail, I have a document here because I get reports from Glen Beach, who heads the body which is addressing this question and reports to me. They work with Rudolph Matthias. And this is a report which came in from Glen on the 16th of December. And I wouldn't read the details except to give you the headlines, subheadings. Strong and demonstrated interest in Argyle International Airport. Airline outreach has been aggressive and successful. And he mentioned the number of airlines whom he contacted: American, United, Delta, JetBlue, Spirit, Allegiant, Air Canada, WestJet, Virgin, British Airways. Point is this: we want to have airlines. You don't have to get all of them, but we want to get enough seats coming out of Miami, coming out of New York, coming out of Toronto, and coming out of London. Those are the principal ones which we have to be interested in, because that's where the bulk of the tourists come at the moment. And of course, hopefully, we will see when we have the airport that, I see Dave Ames here, that he told me that he could always get charter companies to come in to bring in his guests, and hopefully when that is happening, we will see the rest of the Bukamount Resort, which was in part which is incomplete, that will complete that portion of it. So, but you can actually start now, Dave, to accelerate on those other aspects, because you hear the story is happening. Of course, like with all airlines, all airports, this one, the one in St. Lucia, Grenada, Barbados, to get airlines to come to bring you regular passenger loads, you have to provide financing arrangements with them. You have to provide market support, because you want the tourists. You build it, you have to get the tourists, and the airlines know that. So there are different kinds of arrangements which would have to be made in relation to this matter. Now, management. We have been discussing with several different entities and countries management, because a lot of the airports in the region are not properly managed. We have to manage this one properly, and we have to have a real good professional management. And it's not reasonable to expect that Castle Robertson, doing her job as the chief technical officer, as the person who is in charge of the air traffic, to manage an airport like this. You have to separate those functions, even though that they are connected. The management function of the airport and the technical air traffic control functions. So that's an area which we are working on. Rudy didn't mention this, but clearly this building is going to cost a lot of money to air condition, the electricity. So when I went to the Clinton Global Initiative in September, I met the Chief Executive Officer, Chairman of NRG, the largest operators of solar energy and suppliers of solar energy in the United States. But they have come here twice, and I know they have had discussions with Rudy, and we have other entities, because we have an excellent platform here for solar. There are things which, as you notice, which are still ongoing, but I think you have gotten a sufficient impression that serious people are at work with this enterprise. We have made tremendous progress thus far. This building, I have been advised, this terminal building is comparable to the best in the region and better than most. Some people tell me it's the best. We will know when it starts to function. We know when it starts to function. I am told that they had lots of arguments about things like the nature of the tiles which they should put down. I see Michael is laughing. Even tiles even came to my attention, and inquired. They sorted that out. Actually, I don't know anything about these things, but I hear it's fantastic. Understand they had debates over the colors for inside. I hear that the paint is internally is fantastic. On the outside, we haven't painted yet, and you could appreciate that, because we still have work to do in the yard. We don't want to do like some people, paint up your house and then you have to fix up the yard, and then nasty up back your house and have to go and paint it over again. So we can't do that. And then the humble African is reminding me about the air bridge. They came in, Rudy? They're not? They will come in June or thereabouts. They come in June or thereabouts. We are having 2 air bridges. One of the reasons why I advise that we go for the air bridges. The air bridges are what connect the plane to the terminal building. Barbados doesn't have them. But Barbados has 60 inches of rainfall a year. The number of times when you'll have rainfall in Barbados when the planes land would be less frequent than here. And you don't want to spend all this money and bringing people to the resorts, and you have to provide umbrella for them, or you're waiting. The air bridges are quite expensive. How much is one, Rudy? $500,000 US each. $500,000 US each. So they're very expensive. But we'll get them here. So that's where we are.
We would consume the entire road coming up here.
Yes, that's where we are. Today's a happy day. We have done well thus far, and we want to thank you, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for having patience with us. Thank all those who have made contributions. His Excellency has a team where they provide their several thousands on an ongoing basis. He delivers his checks. And I want to thank the Taiwanese government. I want to thank OECC. I want to thank the designers, the consultants, CECI, who are also from Taiwan. This is a low-key event. It is necessary for us to have had this event to take the formal handing over, because the contract said they had to hand over the building to us. When they hand it over to us, it's now no longer their responsibility. We have to make sure that we have proper security here. People don't come and break the glass, them, or anything like that. We have to you know, it's ours now under our control. That's why we have had to have this ceremony. And I want to thank you very much for coming out. And may Almighty God continue to bless us all. Thank you.